Hello and welcome to episode 32 of Stories of Horror. In this episode, we dive into a conspiracy theory that many people have believed to be true, which is about cloning. Of course, we know in the world that people believe there's other guys or girls around the world who look like them, and we call them doppelgangers, or if you actually do have someone who looks like you, which is called a twin or triplet. But in this case, a lot of people believe that some celebrities and some political figures are being kind of like brainwashed or being like cloned to being something else and coming out to be more controlled by the government or some type of other power source. I know it sounds a little crazy, but we're going to dive into that rabbit hole today of craziness, and we're going to see what we find about cloning. So sit back and relax and enjoy the show. Without further ado, hit the intro. Cloning is a technique scientists use to make exact genetic copies of living things. Gene cells, tissues, and even whole animals can be cloned. Some clones already exist in nature. Single-cell organisms like bacteria make exact copies of themselves each time they reproduce. In humans, identical twins are similar to clones. They share almost the exact same genes. Identical twins are created when a fertilized egg splits into two. Scientists also make clones in the lab. They often clone genes in order to study and better understand them. To clone a gene, researchers take DNA from a living creature and insert it into a carrier like a bacteria or yeast. Every time the carrier reproduces, a new copy of the gene is made. Animals are cloned in one of two ways. The first is called embryo twinning. Scientists first split an embryo in half. Those two halves are then placed in a mother's uterus. Each part of the embryo develops into a unique animal, and the two animals share the same genes. The second method is called somatic cell nuclear transfer. Somatic cells are the cells that make up the organism, but that are not sperm or egg cells. Sperms and egg cells contain only one set of chromosomes, and when they join during fertilization, the mother chromosomes merge with the father's. Somatic cells, on the other hand, already contain two full sets of chromosomes. To make a clone, scientists transfer the DNA from an animal's somatic cells into an egg cell that has had its nucleus and DNA removed. The egg develops into an embryo that contains the same genes as the cell donor. Then the embryo is implanted into the adult female's uterus to grow. Back in 1996, Scottish scientists cloned the first animal, a sheep they named Dolly. She was cloned using a udder cell taken from an adult sheep. Since then, scientists have cloned cows, cats, deers, horses, and rabbits. They still have not cloned a human though, in part this being very difficult because it's hard to produce a viable clone. In each attempt, there can be genetic mistakes that prevent the clone from surviving. It took scientists 276 attempts to get Dolly right. There are also ethical concerns about cloning a human being as well. As you know, they were successful, and they actually still do it. Like, they were able to clone like animals and stuff and make different animals based off the things I mentioned in that article. That was from a National Geographic article. You can go look it up and read it the rest for yourself as well. But they was able to clone and make animals and like duplicate them and replicate them like that using the type of technique they use and stuff like that. And it's like some of the stem cells, they was able to replicate them and duplicate it and make it into like, the same exact organism. And as you've seen, like, if they can do it with animals, some people kind of speculated maybe they can do it with people. Now, they said they couldn't do it with people yet, but a lot of things that are said in public, in the media world, that might not be true, and a lot of different things that people might say just to keep things covered up. So people always have conspiracies about it because they could just say that initially, but what they actually do have a way to clone people or a way to brainwash people or do things, and we're going to dive into more of that in this next one about the celebrities who people believe whom we have been cloned or brainwashed or have been duplicated. Here's right here. There's another article that has a lot of different celebrities that people believe to may have been cloned or duplicated. First being Post Malone and Justin Bieber. They believe that they was duplicated. Some people say that if you pitch the sound of their music, it sounds very similar, but that can be a far-fetched idea, a far-fetched theory. They look different, but some people believe that they actually are maybe one. Another one was Miley Cyrus. A lot of people believe that Miley Cyrus was also cloned as well because she had a rebellious against Disney and the rebellious streak, and Disney wanted to create a different type of star. So some people believe that Disney allegedly killed her and then created a clone in her place. It sounds kind of far-fetched as well, but this is the topic of the video, so we diving into it. Another one was Beyonce. People believe that Beyonce was actually died in 2000, and that the one we're seeing now today is a clone version of Beyonce that is kind of like one of the most popular figures in the world. Another one is Taylor Swift. Some people believe that Taylor is the same person as Zena Lavey, who was a priestess of a church of Satan. People are convinced that her and Taylor Swift are clones. It says, at 17, producers wrote, people noted Zena was reportedly a high priestess from 1985 until 1990, just 1 year before Taylor was born. And some people believe that they are the same person. Now, they do share a resemblance in looks. They do look similar, but I don't know if they'd be the same person or not, but you never know. Different things. We dive into this conspiracy and this rabbit hole to see, but they do share a resemblance of looks. Maybe they're relatives or some type of descent, but I don't know. The next person was Katy Perry. Some people believe that Katy Perry is actually John Bennett Ramsey. I actually seen this one before. I forgot what video I was watching. It was some conspiracy video. They said they believe that Katy Perry was held captive and then they brought her back out, brainwashed as this new star who was Katy Perry now, and we know it today. And she actually is a real girl because the girl case never got solved. The John Bennett Ramsey case never was solved. They never found out who was the person behind it. That's one of the cases I think I discussed a little bit on the channel before, but that's kind of what the conspiracy went from. Another person was Britney Spears. The last person on the list. People believe that Britney Spears is a clone we know today. Remember she had the little hiatus where she shaved her head and stuff like that. It said that she allegedly had a car crash with Justin Timberlake, and they said they believe that she maybe died that day, and the one we're seeing now is a clone like that. So it's a lot of different conspiracies, but let's get back into some of the other things surrounding the cloning as well. Another incident that I found interesting also was about the Kevin Hart situation. Remember years ago, back in 2019, when Kevin Hart had that crash, that he had a lot of major injuries in that crash back in 2019 in September, and he left the crash and got healed up in the hospital and stuff. And he made a video and he said that that version of himself died that night, and people kind of speculated and kind of said like, hey, what do he mean when he says it like that? And so people thought that maybe Kevin Hart was a clone if he died that night, because we've seen a lot of different conspiracies where celebrities get into a big crash, a big something big that's catastrophic happened, and then you see them come back as like a different person or come back differently or something like that. But it can just be speculations, and it can just be people just diving down a conspiracy rabbit hole. But the way he just says it's a little strange. And you know how sometimes people say when someone says something absurd, you won't really take it into account of it being actually true. Kind of like hiding in plain sight. You like saying, "Oh, I'm the boogeyman," and people are like, "Oh, you're not the boogeyman," really like that. But you're kind of telling them what you are, but you're not lying to them. But you just kind of like hiding in plain sight. And then some people kind of figure that maybe Kevin Hart did that same thing as well. But on to the next topic. So as you've seen, there's a lot of celebrities on the list, from Miley Cyrus to Beyonce to all type of people they have on the list who they think have been duplicated or replicated or turned into a clone or brainwashed or something. But the only one that really sticks out, like people will say like they have like the car crashes, and then they like say they come out as a brand new person. Sometimes the car crash would be a little staged. I remember a lot of people discussed that. Who was it, Princess Diana? Like the car crash, people said like when she got set up and they like got assassinated, got killed, and there's a lot of conspiracy around that. But Kevin Hart car crash is a little different. Remember he mentioned back in 2019. It was 2018, I think September, or 2019 September, when he was got in a car crash, and he said that the old version of myself died that night. And so like people kind of speculated maybe that he's just saying like he's reborn, because like he wasn't taking life serious, taking it for granted. Remember he had the little scandal that happened, like that, saying he was being unfaithful to his wife and stuff like that. Maybe he's saying he's taking more things for taking things for granted a lot, and taking more things for like being more grateful for things. That's the word I'm looking for right there. More grateful for things now, his kids and his family, his friends, and all stuff like that. You can look at it that way, but some people have a lot of conspiracy theories, and a lot of people who try to think and try to see what words and try to see like any subliminal messages in those words that he said. It was like, we've seen a lot of instances, like they mentioned the Britney Spears and the other things, like a lot of instances where celebrities having a car crash, a crazy catastrophic car crash, and they come back and they kind of like a different person a little bit, the way they act and stuff. But the way Kevin Hart said it, people can maybe think that he's maybe hiding in plain sight. Like I mentioned before in a little article, I was reading the article and stuff, because some people might tell you something initially, like if someone came out here and said, hey, man, I'm Spider-Man. You're like, man, you're not Spider-Man. Spider-Man not real. You know, like that. Like when you say something out there blatant, or like I'm a vampire. You're like, you're not a vampire. Vampire's not real. When you say it out loud, you can kind of hide. It sounds so absurd. You can kind of hide in plain sight. It sounds so crazy to actually believe. And somebody's saying, well, I'm an alien. Like, you know, damn alien. He's not an alien. Get out of here, man. Because it sounds so absurd to believe it. But you actually can hide in plain sight by saying outrageous things, and things are very crazy. It might sound crazy when it's out loud, but you can kind of like keep people away. Like, hey, I'm just hiding by not being secretive, by being upfront with it and hiding like that. So a lot of people thought maybe that was what Kevin Hart was doing and other celebrities are doing and stuff. We've seen the Chris Brown clip where he was talking about he was an alien and he was like serious like that with it. And we see a lot of different people saying they got cloned, they broke out of a cloning facility and all types of stuff. We don't know if these things are true or not, but a lot of conspiracy theorists, a lot of people kind of have like a lot of questions around that. But let's get into the next topic, which is about the MK Ultra. Project MK Ultra was an illegal human experimenting program designed and undertaken by the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, intended to develop procedures and identify drugs that could be used during interrogations to weaken people and force confessions through brainwashing and psychological torture. It began in 1953 and was halted in 1973. MK Ultra used numerous methods to manipulate its subjects' mental states and brain functions, such as a covert administration of high doses of psychoactive drugs and other chemicals without the subjects' consent, electroshocks, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, isolation, verbal and sexual abuse, and other forms of torture. MK Ultra was preceded by Project Artichoke. It was organized through the CIA Office of Scientific Intelligence and coordinated with the United States Army Biological Warfare Laboratories. The program engaged in illegal activities, including the use of U.S. and Canadian citizens and underwriting test subjects. MK Ultra's scope was broad, with activities carried out under the guise of research at more than 80 institutions aside from the military, including colleges, universities, hospitals, prisons, and pharmaceutical companies. The CIA operated using front organizations, although some top officials at these institutions were aware of CIA's involvement. A lot of people still believe that MK Ultra is still active and he's still using these type of techniques still to this day. I know they said they shut it down in the 70s, but you know, you can say a lot of things for the public. Like, well, we stopped doing this type of experimental things on people back then because we knew it was dangerous and stuff, but it's the reason they did it and started in the first place. So I don't know if they are still doing it now, but I wouldn't say they're not doing it. I wouldn't be like certain that, oh, they're not doing it anymore, because a lot of people believe that they may be doing that. And you know, there's a lot of clips. You look at like clips on YouTube or anything, like you see like these weird moments where like you see people like just lock on, like they're looking like somewhere, and then they kind of like lose sight, and then they kind of like flick back into themselves. It is kind of strange a little bit when you see it, like the Cardi B stuff. I forgot there's one politician dude that did that before, and a lot of different people who do that weird things. They be like, it's a little strange, like that's a little crazy. And some people think maybe that's like some type of plant. Something that you're planting different people in different places with power and money, like trying to create them something. And some people have a theory that when you sell your soul out, you're selling yourself to be cloned, to be replaced by something. The theories can get a little crazy, absurd, but you never know. You know, the world got a lot of things that we don't really know and understand fully. But the MK Ultra thing, the brainwashing technique they was using to try to like mess with people brain waves and subconscious and kind of like break them down mentally and stuff. They was using that like that to like using interrogations that can get the truth out of people and control people. So you never know if they still working those things now. If they working on it now, they probably have better technology, and they probably have a better way to cover it up as well. Of course, you still have a lot where we can expose more stuff nowadays, but they're working on it back in the 50s with that type of technology. They probably got something like that now, and they are still working on it. But that is like a lot of speculation, a lot of questions to be answered. But that's really all I have for this video right here about the cloning, about the conspiracy theories around that. Leave the comment section down below what you guys think about cloning or what other videos you want to hear me talk about. But I'll see you guys next time on the channel.